here. So I'm going to go ahead. We should. It's just 2 minutes after 10, so we should probably go ahead and call the meeting to order. Oh, Doug, I like your mask. Very good.
Hey, very good.
Oh, wow.
Although I'm not sure I need to wear it on Zoom.
You don't probably need to, but it sends a good message. I like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so a few more people joining, so maybe we'll wait just a minute here before getting started. But yeah, in fact, while we're doing it, I'll share my screen just to put up the agenda. So hopefully everybody can see that. And if you didn't manage to log into the Lucid meeting, this is kind of what Lucid meeting would look like if you did join it. And down the bottom, there's a little button where you can click and see the agenda. So the nice thing is with Lucid meeting, if you have people join late or whatever, they can always click on the agenda and see what's coming up or what's already happened, and they can see the progress in the meeting. So yeah, it's just 3 minutes after 10. So I think we'll go ahead and, well, actually, no, I'll just scroll through this for people who didn't see the invite. Maybe this is the same information that was in the newsletter email invite that went out, with the addition that up front here, I think Will has joined, and Will is going to talk to us about the upcoming 40th Annual Roosevelt Honors and how he magically was able to forecast and get speakers locked in before they became nationwide sensations, which is quite good. And then we'll get into the main body of the meeting. And then at the end, we'll have just a few minutes talking about endorsements and resolutions, because questions have come up recently about those, and we'll just run through what the rules are on those.
John, is there a way we can print that agenda?
Yes, yeah, if you just log in to the Lucid meetings, the link you got, you can print the agenda. And if you go to the newsletter, Wayne, as well, it should be in the same information. The only thing we added was Will talking to us about the Roosevelt Honors Award, and specifically what clubs can do to help with that Honors Awards virtual meeting.
Hey, John, can you repeat that again, how we can print that out?
Yeah, so if you look in your email, if you check your email, you should have, everybody who registered for the meeting got an invite to something called Lucid Meetings, and there's a link.
It's called what? It's called what?
Lucid.
Oh, Lucid Meetings. Okay.
Yeah, Lucid Meetings. Yeah.
Okay.
And if not, as I say, it's the same information that was in the email that went out. And with the addition, the thing we added was the talking about the Roosevelt Honors. And just to demonstrate, I'll turn off the screen sharing here in just a second, but just to demonstrate, if you were using Lucid Meetings for a meeting, you can see here the people that are signed in on the right-hand side who are present in the meeting. And I could go here to say that, you know, on the agenda, if we're happy with the agenda, we can move to discuss and vote on the agenda. And so then I would put any notes in here, and then I would open the online vote by clicking this button here. And then it immediately, on everybody who has logged in on their screens at their end, it'll pop up to ask them to vote on whether they want to approve the agenda or not. Now, obviously for our meeting here, not everybody is logged into Lucid Meetings, so we can just do the voting for the agenda on the traditional way of using Zoom. But just before we do that, just to show if there is anybody on there who wants to go ahead and vote, their votes, you could either choose to let people see all the votes, like in an area or a central committee meeting where it's a public record, you can see how everybody is voting, or you can anonymize this as well if you wanted to take a vote where it's not publicly recorded, and then people can vote in favor, and the person hosting the meeting can also vote whether they're in favor or not. And then once you've finished, you can record the result. You can see here, so Doug voted, I voted, and everybody else who's paying attention is logged in. Votes. Somebody else got a third vote. That's good. There we go. Thanks, Tazeen. You get the idea. You know, people can go ahead and vote or oppose or abstain, And then once you've taken the vote, record the votes, and so you can either say it passes, it fails, and or that will then get recorded in the minutes. So at the end, you'll be able to generate the minutes automatically, and it'll have all that information in there. So it's kind of handy. The other nice thing is you can, on the right-hand side, change the participants. They can either be full members, in which case they can vote, or they can just be participants or guests, in which case they don't get to vote. So the nice thing is, unlike Zoom, where you have to go through and rename everybody, on this system, you would know whether they're voting members or not. And when you take a vote, you would only take votes from voting members. So that's another kind of handy thing with that. Let's see, there's a few more people coming in. That's good. I just let them in. So now on the traditional method, on the Zoom voting, something that I learned from the California Democratic Party when they held their e-board meeting the other week is they did a quite clever thing of when they take the votes between yeses and nos, they did them separately. And they asked everybody who voted yes, in this case in favor of adopting this agenda, they asked them to go ahead and press the green yes button, and or if they're on the phone, to raise their hand, which they can do by pressing *9. And that way they didn't have to talk to people individually on the phone to get their vote. They could just ask them to do a *9 if they were on the phone, or a yes if they're in favor of the agenda. So if we want to try that just quickly here, we can ask everybody to, on your participants tab, which is a button at the bottom of your screen if you're on a laptop, from the participants tab, either click the yes button if you have it, or if you're on the phone, if you want to press *9. And then I, as the host of the Zoom meeting, I can see the total. So the totals come up here, but I see there are 26 people. Now, one person voted no, which is not following my rule. So the rule, I go, that person retracted the no, thank you. So that now we got up to 31 yeses and no raised hands, but anybody on the call who wanted to vote yes could go ahead. So that's great. I see Thomas has voted yes. And then you can basically just total up all the yes votes plus the hands that are raised, and that gives you the total yes column. And then what I do is I would clear it all down and then ask everybody if they wanted to vote no. This will be your chance to vote no, and or again, raise your hand. So Thomas is voting both no against the motion, and he previously voted yes for it, and he wants to ask a question. So so we'll just close this one. Nobody's voting no. We'll adopt the agenda unanimously and move on. But I will go ahead and ask Thomas, yeah, do you have a question? No, Thomas took his hand down.
Is there a time for comments either before or after the meeting?
Yes, yeah, Tom, what we'll do here is we'll take comments or 1 minute for electeds and people, candidates that are running for office, and people that are representing electeds. We do that at the beginning of the meeting. People need to get on to do something else. And then at the end of the meeting, in the agenda, we have announcements. So there's a space at the end of the agenda to make general announcements. So yeah, if you're running for office and or if you're representing an elected official, or you are an elected official who's here this morning, we will take a minute each for those. And then Ehab, you have your hand up?
No, just for clarification, electeds and running for office at the beginning, whereas general announcements in the end.
Correct. Yeah, we'll hold general announcements to the end, and it's just for people who need to get on to other meetings. We fit them in at the beginning. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
John, I have a question for you.
Yes, Wayne.
As you know, I'm with the Go teams, and but the log on for this meeting asks what club you're a part of, and there's no place for Go team clubs. So I just put in my club affiliation. Can you put in something for Go team members who aren't members of clubs?
Absolutely, Wayne. That's a very good question. Yeah, I know Seth reached out last night to invite more Go team members about running Zoom meetings, and you're right. We're kind of a bit club centric here. So yes, I will change that question on the Zoom registration. Thank you. That's a good idea. Okay, so with that, then I will stop the screen sharing, and we will go to let's see, we'll go to candidates first. If candidates, are there any candidates that want to talk? If you want to go ahead and raise your hands. Okay, and then, yeah, somebody mentioned, yeah, for everybody who's not talking, if you can go on mute voluntarily, I can force the mute from being the host, but rather than do that, if you just want to go on mute voluntarily, and if you're on the phone, you can mute with the *6 will mute, and *6 will unmute as well if you're on the phone. But if we can ask everybody who's not talking to go on mute, that'd be great. And then for the hands raised, right, I see Shari first and then Sam Hurst. So we'll go to Shari. And then also while we're doing this, as we have a minute, a lot of people have asked, how do you time things in Zoom meetings and not kind of break up what's happening on the screen? You know, let the main featured speaker be seen, but at the same time record the time and let them know how much time they have left. So what I'll try and do here is something that was recommended from friends who are members of Toastmasters, and that is we'll use colored backgrounds. So what I'll do is when I start, I'll put up a start sign, and then 30 seconds in, I'll change my background to a 30 seconds one, and then it will change to 15, and then it will change to stop. And then the peer pressure will become insurmountable, and you'll feel that vibe of every other participant telling you to stop at the end of the minute. So if that's good, Shari, we can start with you first. If you want to go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Sherry Mackin. I'm a retired teacher and Oceanside resident for 40 years. I'm recommended by the North Area for official endorsement by the Central Committee next week as Oceanside City Council District 3 choice. I am leading in fundraising in my district, and my campaign has distributed well over 100 signs in less than 3 days to small business and residents in Oceanside. I have well over 50 volunteers. I'm endorsed by Demco, Sierra Club, found acceptable by the Young Democrats, Citizens for the Preservation of Parks and Beaches, Friends of Loma Alta, the South O Moms, Oceanside Mobile Home Alliance, San Marcos Councilmember Randy Walton, Lisa Heavner, retired Superintendent Dwayne Coleman, activist Jimmy Figueroa, and attorney John Vanderpool, as well as hundreds of others. Our grassroots team is up and rolling. We've been talking to voters by phone, at the door, safely. Through social media, it's clear Oceanside wants change, and I'm the change they want. Change is in the air, and I've gone up against the appointed Republican council member before I beat him by almost 20 points. I will do that again. Let's flip the seat from red to blue. I am the resident's choice, and we are going to win this. Thank you.
Thank you, Shari. So I don't know what other people saw on the phone at their end, but I mean, hopefully that worked a little bit. And then the other technique I'm told that can work on the timer is if I cover my my video on my monitor or whatever, my little video camera, so it blocks out the distracting image of John with his mask on. And so we can now go to the next speaker, and that'll be Sam. So Sam, if you want to go ahead.
Certainly. Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to see you all. It's a fresh start to a new day. And I am running for Santee City Council, District 4. This is a tough little race, even though the district is quite small, because we are really, truly the last stronghold of the Republican Party in the county. We have high density housing issues that have been hijacked by city council. The residents are not in favor of them. We have traffic problems like so many other cities that really need adjustment before growth can take place. So I would be very interested not only in having your interest in my race, but any volunteers that are still looking for a candidate to phone bank with, or just a morale booster. I'll take it all because I'm very grateful and I'm determined to win the race. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Sam. And then next up, we have Armando.
Can you guys hear me? Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, you sound good.
My name is Armando Farias. I'm the Chula Vista Elementary School District Board President, and I'm very happy to be here with you guys. Chula Vista is an amazing educational system. Our schools are dramatically outperforming other districts. Actually, as a father and as a resident, you can go to any school and really rest assured that our kids are receiving a world-class education. I'm really happy to announce that we signed the teachers' contract, the TA, and our teachers got a total compensation package of 5.86%, and our classified received a 5.98% total package. Our school district continues to have a positive impact on all of our skills. We continue to receive accolades district-wide and national-wide, and I'm just really happy to represent. I would love to continue with this work. My name is Armando Farias. Thank you for this amazing opportunity.
Thank you, Armando. Perfect. And then we have Esther, you're up next.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Great day today, exciting week. My name is Esther Sanchez, council member for the city of Oceanside, running to be our next woman mayor in Oceanside, the first woman in 132 years. We have the next vice president named, and that is Kamala Harris. And I think it's exciting for all of us, you know, from the school board and boards, commissions, all the way up. It's very, very exciting. Finally, a woman as part of the presidential ticket. I am so excited about our race. I do have a recommendation from the North area to be the next mayor and be endorsed as the next mayor of Oceanside. We raised the most money for this period of all the candidates, including the Republicans. We know what we are up against. We have a very well-funded developer that is probably going to be spending some money on IEs, and we're up for it. I am very, very excited. We've got grassroots. We've got, you know, former council woman like Sherry Mackin running for District 3, and I mean, I'm just so excited.
Yep, that's
Thank
fine. You. Okay, that's great. Thank you. And then Rob, we got Rob up next. Rob, you can unmute yourself.
Mute is a powerful tool. Hey, everybody. Good morning. Rob Howard, candidate for Oceanside Mayor. We are actually really excited. Our endorsements continue to come in. The community has been there and supporting. We got in the race after the primary. We wanted to focus on, we've been working on ensuring that we get certain candidates through the primary. What I want to share with you today is we're actually doing phone banking. We've gotten endorsements from the Labor Council, Oceanside Dem Club, various other clubs, the Progressive Dems, the Vet Dems, the laborers who are working on the hotel downtown endorsed me for mayor. We believe it's time for us to begin to support Democrats as well as working to ensure that we get a new pool of younger people coming in. The Fallbrook Planning Commission has 2 young candidates in. You should check them out. We're working towards the finish line. We believe, the funding is coming in. We're ready. We believe that we have a chance to help get that majority that we need on the council. Again, Rob Howard, candidate for Oceanside Mayor. I'd appreciate your support. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Rob. And I think, are there any other candidates? And if not, are there any either elected officials or people who'd like to speak on behalf of an elected official? Yep. So Doug, I'll give you a couple of minutes, Doug, as you've got depending what you have on your list. If you want to go ahead.
Okay, hold on one second here.
Yep.
Trying
No
to actually, I didn't prepare anything, and I put in the newsletter. In the chat, the link to the Pro Tem's August newsletter. And since I don't want to repeat my normal spiel to the clubs, and so I'll just refer you to the newsletter. Thank you.
Okay, that's easy. That's great. I appreciate that. And yeah, you put the link in the chat. That's great, Doug. Thank you. Okay, so I think that's everybody at the beginning here. So next up, we'd like to, if you're ready, if you want to bring us up to speed on what's happening at a little event that's happening at the end of August, that would be great.
Hello, everyone. Let me pull up my link. There we go. All right, so everybody, we have, let me chat. There we go. So for those of you who don't know, we have the Roosevelt dinner, or normally, we've had 39 of them, normally early in the year, but obviously because COVID-19 was not able, we were not able to do that this year. So what we are doing something called the Roosevelt Honors. And the Roosevelt Honors takes place, and there's a link in your chat. It's sddems.org/Roosevelt40. And what we would like to do, and one of the things, let me pull up what you would see. So for those of you who don't know, our awardees, why is the link here? There we go. Sorry, caught me by surprise a little bit. You could make me a co-host, John.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, I'll do that. Just that. There you go.
Thank you, sir.
No problem.
All right, you should be able to see this. It's the Roosevelt, the San Diego Democratic Party is inviting y'all to the Roosevelt dinner. Our awardees this year, the Making a Difference Award, Assemblymember Dr. Shirley Wepper, Legislator of the Year, County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher, our Leadership Award, Doug Moore, the President of the Labor Council, Club of the Year, which you all know and chose, the Pacific Beach Democratic Club, Volunteer of the Year, our Go Team member, Wayne Durnitz, and then Chairs Awards to Carol Kim, Mayor Catherine Blakespear, Tiffany Gonzalez, and Christina Griffin-Jones. As you probably are already aware, among the speakers are Vice President nominee Kamala Harris. I got lucky there. I was actually a little bit unenthusiastic about it at first because I was like, it's Kamala. We always have, like, she's a Californian, so we see her all the time. But then it turned out to be a good selection. So we will also be addressed by former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, who is a hero in terms of gun rights and gun sense legislation. Well, not the opposite, reasonable regulation on gun control, on guns ownership, who will be presenting to us as well. We also have Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kounalakis will be there, Secretary of State Alex Padilla will be there, and we actually have a couple of asks out, so we may actually have some additional announcements in the near future. The VIP reception starts at 6:30. The event will start at 7. We're working with a production company to make it look like special. What we're trying to do is to make sure that we can incorporate sort of a dinner aspect of it, not really a dinner aspect, but like the sort of personal aspect of it. So we're trying to work with to see innovative ways to recognize people, bring up their screens in order to show them that there's a bunch of people here with us. And one of the ways we're doing that is by recognizing our table captains. Now, the clubs normally will purchase a table of some sort. And this year, we would love for you to do that again. The virtual table is $12.50. It includes 10 guests. There's a premium. We have these swag kits that we ordered that you would get from the party that has not been given to anyone else before. So that's cool. Access to the pre-event VIP reception, which is going to be cool. A lot of our congressional representatives will be there, so it'll be a little bit intimate. And then recognition as whoever the virtual table captain is, and we're trying to bring them up on screen. So during the event, it's sort of like, the split screen where people who are on the table captain list will be pulled up during the event to be recognized. So during their videos. So that's cool. We're working with a production team to make it seem like more than a Zoom meeting. So the whole interface will be different. It'll look like almost like an award ceremony, like when you see the Emmys or the Oscars, where you have the people on screen. Sometimes there'll be dual screen. Sometimes you'll see like people in the audience. Like that type of thing is what we're trying to go for. So that is Saturday, August 29th. We would love for you to pick up for your clubs to do a virtual table. And that's basically it. Will donors of 2,400 be able to attend without buying a ticket? Donors to the party, like, in what way? Like, I'd have to know in what way you're donating. If you're like a chair circle member or something like that, yes, you would be, because the chair circle is $1,200 a year. So if you're donating 2,400, that means and you did that like throughout the year, that means you're above the chair circle level. So you would get the tickets. Exactly. Yes. Yeah, that's what you mean. Yeah, so chair circle members do get their free ticket, and I think they get 2. So I'll check into that. I would reach out to Ryan at sddems.org. He's the one who manages the chair circle, and I'm sure if you've given 2,400 that you are above that level. Yes. All right, then that's it for my presentation. Is there any questions?
How are you feeling, Will?
I'm sorry?
How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm living my best life right now. I'm pretty much at 100%. I did have the when that ship was burning in the bay, because I live downtown, I did have a little bit of breathing issues. So I think there's going to be like lingering effects, but I'm doing really good. I've been doing this like weekly or this 3 times a week swim at La Jolla Shores. That's just completely changed my outlook on life. So I'm doing great.
Bravissimo, bravissimo.
Thank you. All right, then I'm turning it back to John.
That's great. No, thanks, Will. And I think, yeah, I know talking to a lot of clubs, especially with Camilla's announcement, there's a lot of excitement. And I think obviously this is a major fundraiser for the party every year. And so although it's postponed from earlier in the year till now, it's kind of more relevant than ever. And in this online world, just, you know, raising money and making excitement at events is a little trickier. But the good thing is we don't have to eat the rubber chicken. So, so there are benefits. So with that, okay, we'll now move, and if you're following along on the Lucid meeting things, you'll see we'll now move into the third section we have on the agenda, which is to invite up here in a second Sue Alderson, who many of you know as the immediate past president of the Democratic Club of Vista, and she'll talk to you know, the practical aspect of hosting a meeting, and then the more mundane, if you like, behind the scenes things, she'll touch on, and then also we hope to draw out from people in a kind of question and answers as we go along as to, you know, what things are important, and then we can cover off on some of those, you know, after Sue has gone through the main kind of introduction. So I think the important thing to remember as a club president, especially now that we're all kind of isolated in our own little spaces, is that it's still a team effort to put together any meeting. You know, any physical meeting, there's a group of people, normally the e-board of the club, but often an extended e-board, if you like, who are responsible for putting together events and inviting speakers and putting together the meeting. And it's no different in an online world. Although we may be physically separated from each other, it still needs a team of people to help run a meeting. And for example, if you go to the central committee meetings or the area meetings, behind the scenes, there may be half a dozen people that are helping to credential members as they arrive, to answer questions on chat, to help people get on the meeting, or if they're dropping off, why that's happening. There are people keeping notes, there are people keeping time. You know, there's the parliamentarian's role, there's the role of the, you know, the tech people who set things up. And then there's also the role both for members and for guests. Because one thing that's a little different in an online world is just setting the kind of modes of behavior, the normal ways of behaving in an online meeting. And so we mentioned earlier, you know, when people are speaking, you have to go on mute, which is a little different than you would in a regular meeting. And in a regular meeting, you'll be able to whisper and talk to your friends or people nearby. And we facilitate that in this meeting, for example, by using the chat. But just like a real meeting, sometimes the background noise, you know, in a meeting can get a little bit out of hand and raise a little bit. And then sometimes the chair would interrupt and ask people to hush it down, you know, and give focus back on the speaker. And the same thing may happen in the chat. If the chat conversation drifts off into another direction, maybe you have to hush it down and bring it back. Anyway, that's enough for my preamble. I will now hand over to Sue, who graciously agreed to host this meeting after Club Development Committee met last week, and after Sue had to leave the meeting a few minutes earlier. That's when we assigned her the task of doing this today, which is always the best way to assign tasks to people when they're not there to push back. So with that,
Exactly.
hey Sue, good morning.
Good morning. John is right. It's just like, oh, by the way, you're going to do this. And it's kind of, I'm going to do Zoom. So good morning, everybody. And I really spent some time thinking about, I spent a lot of time thinking about meetings. And one of the things for me is that I run groups as part of my profession. So some of the aspects of running a meeting are just come natural because I've been practicing it for so long. And then we moved to Zoom. And Zoom brings with it so many different challenges, but I'm real curious to know from you, what are the best things and what's working for you about using Zoom as a way in which we have an opportunity to hold our meetings? And I'm going to ask somebody to help with the facilitation of people raising hands, because I don't even know whether I can see all the hands that are being raised, if there's anyone that wants to talk.
Yep, I'll help you with that, Sue. So first up, we have Anna Webb.
All right, Anna. So what's working?
What's working is we seem to have a better turnout on our Zoom meetings.
Right.
And I think where that is too is because—
Can't hear you, Anna.
Excuse me?
Yeah, Anna, if you can speak up or get a little closer to the microphone.
It's my laptop. I apologize. I'm on my laptop. So I don't come through as clear for whatever reason. But what I was saying is that we seem to have a bigger turnout on our Zoom meetings than we were in person. And part of that is where we were meeting in person had very limited parking. And, you know, but anyway, that's a big positive for us. And we continue to get new members join, et cetera. So it kind of, in a backward way, helped to boost our attendance in our club.
All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, next up, we got Heather.
Hi, Sue.
Hey, Heather.
So a few things that I like is before our meeting actually starts at 1 o'clock, we tell everybody that we'll be on as early as 12:30 for socializing, because we have a large club and they really like to socialize. So it's nice to be able to, you know, we can't meet in person, so we're trying to accommodate them as much as possible with being able to see each other and chit chat and connect with each other and things. So that's working really well. Everybody loves that. And then the other thing is, instead of having just me as the main person conducting the meeting and then our speaker, I try to have different ones of our board members, you know, be the ones to make different announcements and things, because I feel like we lose connection when we don't see a person for a long time. And so our membership chair, instead of me making the announcements, you know, she'll have a minute so people get to see her. And that's been really good because everybody kind of still feels connected to all of us. It's not just they see me and they hear a speaker and that's it. So those are two things that everybody's really liking.
Good job, Miss Heather. You just touched on two of my points.
Oh, good.
Good. And next up, we have Miriam.
Hey, Miriam.
Good morning, everybody. This is Miriam Aguilar Escobar. I am very happy to be here with you all. One of the things that I believe for me is working a lot more better is that there is no problem with parking and the driving distance and all of the above that Heather mentioned as well.
Right. Thank you.
Right. Next, we have Widad. Widad, if you want to unmute yourself.
Thanks, John.
Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all. I agree with the previous speakers that Zoom had allowed me, I speak for myself, to attend more of the meetings that in the past I could not for the distance, the inconvenience, but this gave me more opportunity to really fulfill my activism. For example, just this week, we have spoken to 3 California senators, Patricia Bates, Tony, can you tell me? Tony Atkins. I'm sorry.
Atkins.
Tony Atkins.
All right, we know who she is.
and Todd Gloria. And we lobbied to them via Zoom with my team at ACLU on AB 901 to reduce youth contact with probation and law enforcement officers, and SB 9731 about decertifying police who have bad conduct. And it really was a fantastic opportunity because we had more participants than we expected, and we were able to distribute the roles of who talk about it, who can tell a personal story, who would tell the representative why it is important for them, and can we ask, can we count on them to vote yes on these two bills. So absolutely, as for me, even when we open, I am going to lobby for more Zoom meetings. It's safe for the environment, and it makes more people, it gives democratization for all to be more aware.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How
Thanks for that.
exciting for you all.
Yeah, and then we have Sess Resnick.
Hey, Sass.
Good morning. Yeah, what I like is the idea of having breakout rooms in Zoom. And we're planning to use that as in our summit and our kickoff. So for example, at the coordinators summit, we'll be able to have a general meeting, give information to everybody, and then break out into regional breakout rooms. And then each regional coordinator will be able to talk to all their coordinators. And that's something we couldn't do in other ways.
All right, so
Great.
anybody else?
Yeah, a couple more. We'll take a couple more. We got Kelly, King, and then Tina.
Okay. Hey, John, why can't I see their hands?
You should, if you click on your participants button, you should.
Hello? Can you
hear
me?
No, yeah, Kelly, you're well, I think the audio is breaking up again. But if you want to try,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Kelly.
Yeah, I think she was having audio problems getting on the call earlier, so I think that may be a problem. So Tina, if you want to go ahead.
No.
No, Kelly, we can't. Sorry.
Yeah, so Tina, if you want to go ahead.
And then Susan has her hand up. I'm so excited.
Okay, hi. Can you hear me?
Kelly, we're going to go with Tina and then we'll come back to you, all right? Because we started with Tina. All right, Miss Tina.
Hi. We have a very large club and there are pluses and minuses. One of them is that, you know, we would, generally our programmer would invite, you know, 8 or 7 or 8 people.
Tina, I don't mean to interrupt you. Could we just right now we're going to focus on the positives or what's working, and then we're going to come back to go through the other difficulties.
Well, the thing is that everybody that we invite is available.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
So, kind of a plus and a minus that we wind up with really crowded meetings. Another plus is that we can have much better meeting control. When you have 200 people in a room, a couple of them are not there to be listening. So we just mute everybody and you have to ask to be unmuted, and that way everybody understands and there's very little distraction.
Okay. So those are your pluses.
Yes,
right.
Everything's available and meeting control. With
you get to control your meetings. All right. And then we're going to come back around to what the difficulties are, what the negatives are. So Susan, is your hand up?
Yes, it is. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the fact that we can introduce some interesting music to our members as we come in and as we dance out. I think that's fun. That
you
was
get
it.
to add some levity to your meetings, right?
Exactly. All right, that's it.
All right, Armando. Yo. And then we'll go back to Kelly after. Is she ready, John, you think?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Good morning. I really think that even though for some people it might be still a little uncomfortable, Zoom has become a way of meeting, and it provides a sense of equity, especially for people who have kids or who have other responsibilities. For example, I have 2 kids right here running around, and I can still attend this meeting. And when they're run properly, I think that it's very, very equitable for all. Transportation, taking care of childcare, things like that. Thank you.
Yeah, I like the idea of childcare. Thank you for mentioning that, Armando.
Thanks.
That's a good one, right?
Yes.
Right. Ms. Tazeen.
I'll echo what Armando.
I can't hear, we can't hear you. You're still
There.
okay.
Okay, I will attest to what Armando said. And Sue, I know you will echo what I said too. I used to drive my poor kid to every meeting.
Right? So childcare. All right. Hey, Kelly, do you want to try it again?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Kelly.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Oh, amazing, amazing. I just wanted to add that I like the fact that I can see who's speaking very easily and read their name, which you can't really get in a meeting. People introduce people long in a way that you don't really know who's speaking, and here you have people's name in front of you. And I also had the experience of the most effective breakouts that I've ever had. Normally breakouts in meetings don't really work. They're just kind of not effective, but a breakout where you can actually group people together, and it's really amazing. And I'm really in favor of this. I think it's more democratic and more participation.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. All right, so I'm going to recap what we've heard, what does work. A lot of the stuff was reiterated by more than one person. We have more people show up at our meetings. It's environmentally sound, so we're not all idling in traffic, waiting to go there, looking for places to meet. There's an opportunity for more people to be seen and to speak. The issue of childcare is an amazing issue. The idea when, I can't remember who was speaking about, their club had an opportunity to meet with electeds to speak about specific issues and bills that they were concerned with. And one of the benefits probably for both our elected officials and us is that we don't have to worry about when they're in San Diego. They can be wherever, and if they have time, they can just kind of join the Zoom, and that was an amazing experience. When Heather was talking, she's able to utilize the Zoom as a way to keep people involved, more club members involved, which means there's more buy-in from the clubs. I think I've covered everything. Did I leave anything out there, John? Or I think I got almost everything that you got. That San Marcos did talk about their social hour, but my sense is other clubs might have a social hour.
I would add in Tina's comment about how much easier it is to control the flow of the meeting and so on.
Right, and we're going to talk about that because there's been some conversation about that very issue, and that's something for there to be a discussion, because there's some people that are real offended that the chairs control the meeting by muting it. And I'm not saying one way or the other is a good way. I think it's just a good conversation for people to share their perspectives from that. I think I see Miriam has her hand up. Yes or no? Miriam, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I think I did. Going back to the childcare issue, I will say it in a different way. I believe that this is almost an early intervention teaching for young children or young adults that can sometimes sit with us and listen to what we are doing in politics, so they become engaged in this process. What we are seeing is that we need to start teaching our young people about the rules of the game, or sometimes we are going to lose just because we don't know the process. So to me, this is really important. Regarding the issue of working with Zoom, I think it's very practical, but also I know that if we don't follow properly the rule of Robert Rule of Order, the game can be lost. And we need to be careful with that. I am very pro learning and teaching Robert Rule of Order, because I have seen that it could happen that sometimes people can get distracted or they don't remember the rules, the bylaw, what to do, and they will be, you know, trying to play games. And we need to have more integrity, because now you're watching us, I am watching you, you are watching me, and we have to take care of each other. Integrity, the integrity of the club is very important.
Thank you. And thank you for watching me and making sure I'm on my best behavior at all times. I appreciate it.
Watching you, this is what we do. We help each other to grow.
Yeah, we have to take care of each other, right? Hey, Mustafa. Did Mustafa have his hand up?
Yes. Hey, Sue. So I just pulled my hand up because I thought you were going to be talking about the cons.
Well, I am in a second. So you want to wait?
Okay. Yes.
You want to wait? All right. Any other pluses? Any other pros? I think that the idea of having children engage in this and being able to watch this process is another benefit. We've had other children attend our club meetings, and I'm not sure they pay a lot of attention because they're kind of frustrated that they're at the meeting. So I think that that's an interesting way of looking at encouraging all members of our community, our children and our friends and all of that to be a part of this process. All right, so those are the benefits. And now I'm real curious to know what are the downsides to using Zoom as a way to have these meetings? Anybody? Mustafa.
Okay, so just before I start, the benefits definitely outweigh the cons, okay, on this. This is the first council club meetings I've ever attended. I appreciate that. I always hear about it from you, Sue. So I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to see everyone. My whole thing is the human interaction, really. I'm a hugger, you know. I like to see a lot of you at our local meetings, the North Area Caucus meetings, and also the Central Committee. That's, you know, once a month is most of the time where I see so many people. So that's the only con I have. But otherwise, I love Zoom, and it's great that we're making progress on these meetings.
Right. Felicia. Thank you, Mustafa.
Poor internet connection. That's the only thing for me.
It can be a real problem though, right?
No.
Yeah.
Jasmine loco.
Right? Or when you get frozen, it's like, oh my gosh, right? Definitely.
That's it.
I hear you. All right, Philip.
Yeah, two things. One of them is the discipline that a lot of people don't have in leaving their microphones on, and background noises build. And that's the first one. The second one is we tend to turn chat off because the pop-up chat messages that are mostly inane just drive us nuts. So
Like, what do you mean? What do you mean by pop-up chat messages?
that's when someone says responds to a chat, puts an item in a chat, you get a pop-up on your screen where you see what they're saying, and it drives us nuts. So we just turn it off.
Okay, so chat is the issue for you guys. Anybody else? Doug.
Yeah, voting can be sometimes time-consuming and complicated on Zoom.
That's the truth. Thomas.
Hi, everybody. A couple of things. First thing is you miss the sort of interpersonal thing when you can look at somebody, get people's reactions to things. It's much harder to do that on video. Second thing is that there's just a lot of interpersonal that's missing when you're doing a Zoom meeting, both before the meetings, afterwards. That whole sort of camaraderie type of idea is missing a lot.
Okay, so it's that interpersonal, that face-to-face contact that's missing. Kind of like what Mustafa said, I think. Ken? Is Ken available? Mr. Dalby? I see. All right, Georgine, until Ken gets back.
Have you got me now?
I got you. All right, Ken goes in, Georgine. All right.
Okay. I was just going to say that when you can't see people's faces, a lot of communication is lost. Since we don't have people physically in front of you, I like to see their expressions on their faces and stuff to kind of get a backstory or that visual kind of information. Right. The other thing is that speaking like this is a little bit different than speaking in front of a crowd. and the feedback from speaking is kind of lost. And preparing yourself to speak like this is a little bit different from preparing to speak to live people. So sometimes that can get a little hairy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Georgine.
Yeah, just briefly, I think everyone said it so well and articulated it well. We do miss that half an hour or so that we would spend. We would have food, break bread together, drink coffee. And that part, that sharing, is really missing in these Zoom meetings. We can share to a point, can bring our own cups of coffee with us, but it's not the same as being face to face and having that that eye contact, that pure eye contact with that individual. I'm missing that. That Zoom will never replace that.
No, I don't think so. Mr. Babich.
One of the technical problems that we've had in our meetings is when married couples are sharing one Zoom screen. So now you're doing a vote, you only get one vote, so you have to go down individually through each of those screens to verify that both people are voting the same way. So it becomes a technical issue. So.
All right, Cynthia. Cynthia Geraldo.
Got to unmute. I find that running a regular live meeting is energizing for me. And I find that the technology and all of the different aspects of running a Zoom meeting actually leaves me exhausted. And I'm not used to that. And so we kind of have to gear up for a Zoom meeting in a way I've never had to gear up for a live meeting.
Right, yep. Welan. Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Thank you. I noticed because, I had such a quantity of available Zooms that I want to learn from all of them. So I try to attend them because really they are wonderful and they educate me. So I started calling them like all you can Zoom buffet. But that comes with a cost, sitting a lot. And I had to remind myself to get up once in a while, maybe during the Zoom or between one Zoom and the other. So that is one thing, without Zoom, we were able to move more. And of course, the interpersonal contact. With the Zooms, there is that aspect of being over greedy, like being in a buffet where you want to try everything and eat everything with negative consequences. So
yeah,
the movement, I have to remind myself to move. Thank you.
We got to take a walk. All right, Miss Christie.
Hey, so we kind of just said this, but I feel like people are kind of zoomed out because like she just said, there's so many Zooms to attend, and a lot of us who are working from home now are doing virtual work as well. And so it's so easy to spend a whole day on like Zooms or Teams or whatever. And so for myself, I had to kind of learn to like say no to some stuff and remember that I don't need to like be on Zooms all the time just because I'm home. And I think that I feel that a little bit with some of my members of kind of like, they can't add another Zoom to their schedule, or just that I think the virtual meeting thing is just like a little bit too much sometimes. So I don't know if there's really a way to fix that, but I feel that people are getting a little zoomed out.
A little burnt out. Well, it's real easy. Like it's way easier for me to attend a Zoom meeting down in Chula Vista since I live in Vista, right? So it's much easier than to just say, sorry, I can't make it because I'm not going to drive.
Exactly.
For sure. It sounds like the negative aspects. Is there anybody else? Did I miss anybody? Oh, Tazeen has her hand up. Sorry.
I just have one point. With adults, we're okay with public speaking, but with children, I feel like they're not practicing their public speaking skills so much. Like I had 6 teenagers on Wednesday on a panel, and they were all like, okay, attending, but normally I would have had to prepare them for a little bit of public speaking and they could practice their public speaking skills. But on Zoom, they were all like just chilling on their phones the whole time. So I feel like we're not able to translate those skills to our youth with Zoom meetings.
Right.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back through. Thank you, everybody, for your positives and your negatives. It sounds like we're pretty consistent. Technology seems to be an issue, and there have been other issues. Like I was sitting on a meeting with the Club Development Committee, and Kelly had a problem. I'll have times when I'll just kind of get frozen. My technological knowledge is pretty limited at best anyway. And then the lack of interaction with people, and Georgine's correct, you don't have that face-to-face contact. I can't remember who just said it, but it's the exhaustion. Like many people who like to do presentations, who are super extrovert, find themselves really energized when they're in a face-to-face meeting and they get to read the crowd and be able to kind of give feedback. And those aspects of the human element are definitely missing when we do Zoom. And so did I miss anything? So, and the voting issue, and I agree, the voting issue can be really arduous. And it's time it's a long process, longer than when we just used to vote face to face. When we do the North Area Caucus meeting last week was like 4.5 hours long because of how we have to vote. I'm not sure that there's a remedy for that, but there might be some other things that we can do in terms of some of the negative aspects of it. I hear about people being burnt out on too many Zoom meetings, and I wonder if it's not the same aspect for all of us that are overextended. And sometimes it's just easier to overextend because, I can just go to a Zoom meeting because I can just sit in my house. So it's 7 o'clock at night, or maybe I'll just have a glass of wine when I do this. And under other circumstances, I would just be, I would just be like either going or driving in my car or whatever. So the distance thing is definitely easier on Zoom. It's easier to get to the council club meetings from Vista because I can just walk into my dining room and turn on the computer, and I don't have to drive 45 minutes to get down to the Union Hall. So all of those things are true about being on Zoom, and then those are also some of the downfalls. But John, like right now, I just see Tazine's name. Like I don't see my face. I don't know my technology really well. Am I missing something? There I am. How did you do that?
Well, I did that using a command called Spotlight Video.
All
so
right.
the host of the meeting, normally the video switches to whoever's talking. But if it doesn't, you can spotlight, and then everybody will see whoever I spotlight.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I do have, and then the last part of this, after I have just like one more question, and then it's kind of, is there a way that we can mitigate some of the difficulties? I'm not sure, as a collective. And there's one question that I do want to pose to the entire group, and that was raised at the early one about, we can control the meeting, we can mute people. And I hear mixed things about it. It's kind of like, and so my question to you is how, in terms of a democratic process, in terms of having the chair of your meeting be able to mute people, in terms of who gets called on to speak, is it a really good way to control? I mean, is it the most effective way to control? It's really kind of, John and I just had this conversation yesterday without no resolution, but what are your thoughts about having the chair of the meetings mute the meeting and decide who can speak and when they can speak? Or if there's another way to do that, when you mute the meetings. Anybody have any thoughts or any comments? All right, Tina.
Hi, I'm the person that raised it. And
I can see.
I didn't mean it in an authoritarian way. What happens is I'm the president of the club, but we have a webmaster that controls the Zoom meetings. So he just says, I'm muting everybody from me on down to everybody. So everybody knows that everybody's muted.
Okay.
So it feels a little better. And then we raise hands if we want to speak, or we put a comment in the chat if we want to speak, and then he addresses it that way. And we've got 2 people that help him in controlling the meeting that way, so that it feels more fair that we're all muted.
All right, I hear you. Mine isn't a judgment. Mine is really just a conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, how do we manage that, right?
Well, because we've got people that will just raise things that you do not want to hear.
I hear you. I got it.
We have
like
200
right.
people at a meeting. Yeah, you gotta figure it out.
What about you,
and
Heather?
We get done in an hour and 45 minutes.
Exactly. That's how you run a meeting. All right, Heather.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Tina said, because we have a large club too. So I love the mute feature, absolutely love it. And we have Tom, he's our webmaster. So he does all the Zoom technical stuff. And like she said, everybody knows they're muted, but we use the chat a lot too. It's like, you know, if after a speaker, we're taking questions, depending on the subject and the speaker and how many people are attending, sometimes we'll use the raise hand feature, but a lot of times we'll just say, put your question in the chat, because 3 people will want to ask the same question and there's not enough time to answer everybody's questions. They could go on and on. So we'll take like the most popular questions, like there's 5 of one question that's all the same. There's 3 of another, you know, 1 is an outlier. And if we run out of time, we skip that one. So I love that the chat is there. And even when we ask for volunteers for things, I mean, we can continue to move right along. You know, we just have them put their information in the chat, what they're volunteering for, how we contact them. So I think between mute, raise hand, and using the chat, I think the meetings work really well, really well. I'm very happy.
All right, David.
Thank you. I've noticed a malicious tactic that's being used by the minority, where they're using Robert's rules and they're actually slowing down the meeting with points of question, points of order. And I'm a big fan of Robert's rules. I'm a parliamentarian in the Progressive Dem Club. But like, I see some people using this maliciously because they want to enforce the will of the minority on the majority.
Like, give me an example. I'm not sure I get that.
Who attended the last Central Committee meeting, and how long did it go?
For hours.
For hours, and it was done by people with points of order, questions, you know, and votes getting slowed down, et cetera, et cetera.
So so your issue is Robert's rules and the misuse of Robert's rules versus mute and chat?
I think it's kind of one of those where we need to find a way to mitigate and allow the people who don't have a voice, who want to have a voice, but still also ensure that we keep the meeting going forward. But when, you know, if you can't let the will of the minority take away the will of the majority, because we are a democratic club.
So because I was going to raise Robert's rules after talking about mute chat, because some people like John John hasn't muted us, right? John, we're all like muting ourselves and unmuting ourselves. And what are there, 65, 67 people in this meeting? And so it's like, and it seems to work here, but that's the purpose of this conversation. But my next conversation was going to be about Robert's rules and how adaptable is Robert's rules to this environment. So if you want to hold off on that, and we'll talk about that in a second. Okay. All right. So Kelly.
Yeah, I think muting everyone and then letting people, unmuting people is a good way to do it, but you cannot say that you're only unmuting people that you like, that agree with you, that are on your side. And we're seeing some of that. And in particular, the trying to shut down chat, I just think it's unforgivable to do that. There's if you have, what I've seen very effective is to have a second person, not the chair, monitor the chat and look through it. And periodically the chair asks the chat monitor, do you have any input? And they kind of summarize it. But to deny, we don't deny, in a regular meeting, we don't deny people the right to write a message to somebody unless they're actually disrupting. And they don't disrupt if if you have somebody that can monitor the chat separate from the chair. It's very difficult to do it.
That's true. Thank you, Kelly. All right, did I get to Wayne? Did he already speak?
No, I haven't, and I'd
All
like
right,
to.
there you are.
Thank you. I'd like to endorse Kelly's point about having someone other than the chair monitor the chat, because there's a lot of extraneous stuff on there that just clogs up the airwaves, so to speak, and it needs to be monitored and controlled. But back to the original question regarding the control mechanism of muting and unmuting, I think that's one of the advantages of Zoom meetings. But I think since we're all fairly new at this, not everybody knows how to properly chair a meeting and to use communication skills that are more positive rather than negative or oppressive. And so it may be a good idea if we're going to continue this, and it looks like we are, to set out a list of protocols for chair and for chat monitors and others, but primarily for the chair, so that the chair can conduct the meeting keeping proper control while at the same time not offending people.
Right. Thank you very much. Good point. Susan.
Okay. For one, I want to address Kelly's point. There's no option to just mute certain people. It's either you mute everyone or you mute no one. The very first women's club meeting that we had, we were Zoom bombed. I've been on a Point Loma Gen meeting, which was horrible. It was Zoom bombed by about 12 people. And then our last meeting for the women's club, as many people know, we had to kick someone off. And so I'm really interested in how this conversation goes, because I want to have the chat open, and I want everyone to be unmuted and to be able to mute themselves and unmute themselves. But you really have a problem when you have certain people, because we have to have our meetings open to every registered Democrat. And as we know, some of them just don't know how to keep their passions within themselves. So I'm interested in how this, what the consensus is on this. And the other thing is, it's to Rob Howard's point about making our meetings accessible to all Democrats. Everyone really should have a YouTube channel. And as we are right now, we're live on YouTube. So this is this particular discussion is open to anyone, whether they have a meeting link or not. And the advantage for you, for members, for people on this discussion, if your club has a YouTube channel that stays on YouTube, it's your record of your meetings, and anyone can access it. Your members who weren't there live can go back and redo the meeting.
If you would. Thank you, Susan. All right, Miss Linda Slater.
I just wanted to add that our experience with Demco, which is a pretty large club as well, we have to mute everybody. And the way you recognize them is you ask them to raise their hand, and then it's in order who raised their hand first and like that. So there shouldn't be any problem with not, giving preference to some people. And the problem is, after somebody's unmuted, you got to remember to mute them again, because then I don't know why, but people feel that they have a right to speak up, and then you have to figure out who's unmuted and mute them. And finally, there is a problem with people that have a question or a point of order or something. There should be a way to distinguish that, so you can call on them right away. But I haven't figured it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. All right, Miriam, our last question for this one.
Okay, so no, mine is a comment, no question. Basically going back to the Robert Rule of Order.
Okay, well, hold on. We're not at Robert Rules of Order yet. When we get to that, then we'll talk about it, okay? Just give me a second. Let's just finish this part and then we'll move to the Robert's Rules of Order, okay? All right, thank you. Anything else about the concept of mute or? All right, so apparently people seem to like using the mute, is from what it sounds like. It provides a tremendous opportunity for people to be able to kind of take control of the meeting. And it doesn't sound without, and I don't know how the participants feel about being muted, whether they feel like they're being controlled or they're well comfortable with that. It sounds like a few clubs have more than one person monitoring the chat. And I don't know, did one club say that they shut off the chat or they allow the chat? Am I missing something? John, you need to do whatever. So like, because right now I'm just seeing Miriam.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I'll do that again. But yeah, Phil Courier mentioned earlier for Torrey Pines, I think, that they turn off the chat.
So they turn off the chat. So, and part of it, I think, is as with all other things and that we do in the party, the way we run our clubs is really a very individual, kind of depends on the style, actually, of the person who's the chair, I think, more than anything. Somebody did mention protocols, and we're not going to have time, I don't think, today, but that was one of the things that if we could share whatever our own personal best practices are as we go through this Zoom process, that however we do this takeaway from that maybe we can apply some of it to our clubs. I know things like when we have a club meeting and you're doing it on Zoom, are the ground rules or whatever, however you want to call it, delineated for your new members or your visitors. Everybody's going to be muted. People are going to be recognized. Look to this person for this information, look to this person for that information. That's one of the things that's really helpful when we go to the North Area Caucus meeting, because there are so many people at the meeting. It's like, this individual is going to be taking care of the stuff in the background. If you have a problem, send a private message to this person. If you have another concern, send it to this person. These are the 3 people that are going to be monitoring the chat, if the chat is on. And the other thing about using that, and Heather kind of alluded to it, I think, is that it gives an opportunity for more people to be involved in the meeting. And for me, if I'm going to go to a meeting, I much rather to be as actively engaged in the meeting as I can. One of the things I've noticed that Zoom gives people opportunities to kind of kick back and participate. They turn off their cameras so they're not seen. They're doing other stuff, and we think that they're really attending the meeting. Other people are on, and you can see their pictures, and you zoom through, and they're all doing other work. And I'm not critical. People come to meetings for whatever reasons they want to come to meetings. So it's not for me to make a judgment about that. But for us to ensure that we have the greatest number of people engaged, what are the kinds of strategies that seem to work is another thing. The issue of technology, I mean, I can just keep revisiting that and revisiting that. John, somebody else would have to respond to that. I mean, Kelly had a problem. Somebody early on had a problem. There are times when I'll be in a meeting and I just kind of freeze. That could just be one of the downsides of doing that.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Sue, yeah, there was a comment, a good comment Mike Thaler just put in the chat. For audio, yeah, some people have slower internet connections than others, or the internet connection can come and go. And so often in Zoom, there is the option to join the call using audio on your phone rather than audio on the computer. And if you do have a slow internet connection, often the quality will be better on the phone. You can still join from the computer to see the meeting and see other people, but the actual audio is carried over the phone service. And not always, but.
So if there's a way that you can, someone can write up instructions and we can send it to the club presidents and then they can get it out to members that are not that sophisticated regarding the technology, that might be really helpful, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We will do that, yeah, following this meeting, yeah.
And so that, I mean, all of that kind of information is really kind of important. Usually John has an agenda on the board, but when I used to run the meetings face to face, there's the agenda, but the ground rules of, I mean, after a while, people just kind of had a sense of how a meeting is run because the same people run it. But only one person speaks at a time. I mean, I didn't have the freedom to mute people in a face-to-face meeting. I had to figure out how you mute people just by saying, we're not talking about that right now, or that's a sidebar conversation. And that's one of the things that chat allows people to do. And then if you can be sure that you have people who are willing to monitor your chat, because I understand there was an issue at the women's club and somebody needs to monitor the chat. So when people would get out of hand or out of control or inappropriate, we're in a position to take action immediately and we don't have to wait. But protocols, I think that's another conversation. Some of that's kind of up to the individual and how they run their meetings. I do want to touch on the concept of Robert's Rules of Order. I always had a parliamentarian, so Robert Rules of Order is not necessarily my biggest strength. I wonder if, and I think that somebody was going to say, yes, it is. I think I saw that Robert's Rules of Order is geared for and arranged for this process that we do on Zoom, or maybe it doesn't matter whether you're in a Zoom meeting or whether you're in a face-to-face meeting. So I'm going to just, because that's two people that have commented on Robert's Rules of Order and how it slows down the meeting. And somebody said how it can hijack a meeting so that the voices that are being heard don't represent the greatest number of people in the club. And the intention is never to quiet always make sure that there's space for all people's voices to be heard, but an abuse of Robert's Rules of Order. I wonder if that doesn't happen in a face-to-face meeting as well as on Zoom. But if anybody would like to talk about Robert's Rules of Order and the impact on Zoom meetings, I'll let Kelly King start.
Well, actually, just before you do, Sue, I'm going to jump in. A number of the people had hands raised from the points earlier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear down all the hands that are raised. And now just ask people to raise their hands to address the point Sue just made about Robert's Rules of Order.
And see how important it is that I have somebody else that's monitoring this? It happens to be John, he knows everything. But if I was doing this in a club, then I would have somebody else that would be able to, and I'm in no way offended that there's somebody that can monitor that for me. So like I can just pay attention to what I'm doing. And so when I have somebody else doing it, it kind of insists that they pay attention to the meeting as well. So then I get better feedback. Anyway, that's just my little aside. And one of the things that's truly missing is as I do this, I can't see anybody. So I have no idea what your reaction is. If you guys are all yawning and saying, this is like so friggin' boring, or she's making some good points. So to that other thing about not getting the feedback that we usually get, I just don't know. I don't get to read the crew. So it's kind of odd. Anyway, Greg.
Yeah. Hi. I've also been a parliamentarian, and frankly, Robert's Rules of Order can protect precisely the ability for people to speak. Some of this is just because people don't know it fully. Robert's Rules clearly says that no one should be allowed to speak unless a second time until someone else has had a chance to speak the first time. If someone is clearly using Robert's Rules to delay things, that's called dilatory. And the chair has the right then to stop them from doing that. They can't misuse those points of order to delay things. The chair has that power to be able to do it. And so no one should be allowed to speak to an issue more than twice. There's a lot of protections Robert's Rules has, if properly used, to precisely protect the ability of people to participate. And the last thing about that, if the chair is clearly favoring one side or another, that chair is not fulfilling the responsibilities according to Robert's Rules. The reason why the chair is not allowed to vote, not allowed to engage in debate, is precisely they're supposed to remain neutral in these kinds of discussions. So a little more Robert's Rules of Order can help precisely dealing with problems of Robert's Rules.
So as a parliamentarian, if you were to see, this is just my question, you were to see somebody abusing the rules, you as a parliamentarian would be able to let the chair know, hey, this is going on? Or is that how, so that's how your communication would take place?
Yeah, the parliamentarian should inform the chair, this is dilatory, the chair should not recognize the person again, should then criticize them if you have a real point of order, but I'm not going to call on you again for this same point. This is dilatory. So,
okay.
Again.
All right, Miriam, thank you. All right, Miss Miriam.
I already said that, Greg, I fully agree with what he's saying. And I believe that what is happening in our club, there are many people that they don't really know the Robert Rule of Order. And I forgot so many things. So I have been in the situation where Greg, he really shut me down, and I am okay with that because I believe he's following Robert Rule of Orders. So I don't mind losing if I am losing in the right way, but to lose because somebody's stealing my time, I do oppose that.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you, Kelly.
Yeah, I think the issue raised earlier that things like point of order or point of information, or someone saying, I don't think my vote was counted, something that needs to be done, quote, first, if you see what I mean, ahead of going on with the meeting so their vote can't be counted, that kind of thing. I think we need a particular specified way of raising that kind of chat, or raising that kind of hand that says, this is not just contributing to the conversation, this is a point of order or a point of information, so that the order in which people's are unmuted becomes differently. And I think there's something in Robert's Rules of Order about that a point of order can intercept when a motion is on the floor, for example. You can still do a point of order or a point of information. So we need a mechanism to do that.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. Anybody else about Robert's Rules in Zoom? You know, it sounds to me, and this is just from my experience as the president of a club, and I had a parliamentarian, thank goodness, that kind of would keep me on track because I'm super ADHD. But I wonder, and this is just me speculating, and you all are clubs, whether it would not behoove all of us to kind of do a review of Robert's Rules of Order, whatever it's going to look like with our club members. That I don't know that all of the members of the club understand when they can do a point of order. I'm not sure. I mean, the club members that were able to hijack a meeting, for that, they were pretty sophisticated in their knowledge of how to use that. But I'm not positive that all other club members, I wasn't gonna guess it at my club, or when I was the president of the Democratic Club of Vista, I would guess most people didn't even understand Robert's Rule of Order. They only knew motion, to second the motion, what a discussion would look like, how many people could speak, and yeah, they didn't have any idea about anything else. So John, that might be something that you might want to share with the club presidents and see if there's not a kind of like Robert's Rules of Orders for dummies or something, just so like there's a way for people to go through that. And I think that might be helpful.
Yeah, and just to take up on that point, Sue, yeah, it's every year we try and run a training on Robert's Rules of Order. We have one online, a video that Jess Durfee did a couple of years ago, and Doug Case, I think last year, helped us with that. We will do one again this year, and we've been waiting because in September of this year, we're promised to get an updated, revised, official version of Robert's Rules that adds specific things to do with online meetings. And if you go to the official Robert's Rules website today, you'll see they've added a couple of kind of advisory or suggested points to do with online meetings, but they're not officially part of the new guide. So they do plan to update it. And in addition to that, I think we can also learn from the great example that was given by the CDP last week with how they ran the meetings with their parliamentarians. And what I've heard from a couple of people say this evening is the separation, if you like, of who gets called on to speak, and to Greg's point, making sure that everybody gets to speak at least once and not the same people coming back and back again. Those kind of things can be controlled by somebody other than the chair.
Right.
Because it's easier. Similarly with voting, an impartial parliamentarian, if you like, more impartial than the chair, maybe, but maybe even from another club, somebody who specializes in being a parliamentarian can maybe help run that kind of voting process more smoothly. And to Wayne's point earlier, I think codifying that or writing down the protocols and sharing those widely and getting input from everybody here on this call, everybody who has a thought or a suggestion, pooling that input and then putting that out as kind of guidelines could be very beneficial.
Or like what we have looked at appear to be like the best practices, right? That when this happens and you, like what you observed at that meeting, right? And those appear to be really good practices that somebody else is watching. It's just like you looked at, oh, there's some people's hands that are still up, I have to clear it. You know what I mean? Just that the chair is kind of preoccupied. And so, and I think if there's a Robert's Rule of Order that's coming out for Zoom, if there are any kind of differences, that would be important. Unfortunately, for some people, Robert's Rules of Order is not very sexy. So the idea of like, you know, in asking your club members to endure it is kind of difficult. But if there's just a way, or perhaps like once at each meeting, you just cover one part of Robert's Rules of Order. Because I mean, really, just so like there's a general sense of most people are on the same page. Because I've sat in the North Area Caucus and people send me a text saying, why are they doing this? And these are members of however they get to sit on the North Area Caucus, because it's such a huge group, whereas some of the smaller clubs might not use all of the mechanisms of Robert's Rules of Order. So that just a way, because, and I think that to the point about protocols, when we set up the protocols, it makes the whole conversation a little bit more fluid, because most of us would be on the same page. So if we go from one club to another club, at least there's some shared knowledge, other than we're all Democrats. Like there's a shared knowledge base, like, okay, I can kind of expect, like the culture's a little bit different, but some of the same things are gonna occur in this club that occur in other clubs I've been at, and everyone's gonna use chat, someone's gonna be observing chat, you know, people are gonna be able to see whose hands are up first. We ensure that everybody's voices are gonna be heard. You know, because I've been, the very first Zoom meeting I was on, 3 people's voices weren't heard and they were devastated. And a vote was taken without their input, and they believed that there was malice, but there really wasn't any malice. It was the lack of understanding about all of the mechanism is the best way to make this as the way for this to be the most fluid that it can be. As I think back what we talked about, Georgine, I'd love to go have food and drink with you before your club meeting, but I don't think they're gonna let us do that anytime soon, right? I'm not sure when they're gonna allow us to meet with more than like 5 people. I hear Mustafa, I hear most people that's what we missed probably the most. And then it's really just about how we're gonna manage our time. It sounds like the difficult issues really were the technology component of it, and that there was a learning curve for most of us in terms of how do we get into the kind of rhythm of doing it? What are the best ways in which we can do it? My only recommendation, and I've kind of heard it from a few people, is to have as many of your club members involved in this process. And the more people that are involved in the process, the more buy-in it is. And if you can rotate through, but you get to make that call, whether you just want your e-board to be involved, or if someone raises their hand and said, oh, I'd love to monitor the chat for you. Just those kinds of things might be real beneficial. The conversation about Robert's Rules, John will send everybody, if you want to send all your club members to go see this quick and dirty video, but if people aren't going to sit through that, what are the kinds of ways as club presidents, we could bring somebody in to kind of just do a real fast overview of what Robert's Rules look like? Because I do think that it's real important, because there's a structure there that does work to ensure equity, that does work to ensure that one voice does not overtake the meeting. And we always know that there are 1 or 2 voices that, given a chance, that they would love to be in charge of the meeting. It doesn't sound like there's a real issue with whether you're muted or not, as long as the people who are running the meeting recognize that everybody's voices will be heard. So like that is told to all participants. I don't know if I've really missed anything. And the idea of childcare, I just never really thought about that, but I just think that that's really like amazing. I mean, it's a really good idea. I like Susan's idea of a little music at the beginning, everybody kind of dance and plays at the end. That might take the place of people just sitting in front of their computer all day. You get your break. It appears that for most of us, we have found that the Zoom meetings are successful because we're able to reach more people. And more people are able to participate, and we're able to get other kinds of folks involved that we might not normally have gotten involved. But it doesn't really sound like anybody's disappointed, other than the lack of our need for human contact. And I have a feeling if we were to talk to most people who are sheltered in place, or this concept of being under this COVID watch, many of us are missing that opportunity to just like, hey, let's just go out to lunch, or let's go have breakfast, or let's go have a drink, or let's go meet in the park. That everything, almost every time I talk to people, it's about, I met some friends and we were socially distant. Like that becomes a qualifying factor to have a face-to-face conversation with somebody. And so it's so embedded in what we do. And my hope is it won't be forever, because I think that the more isolated we get, the more difficult it might be. But that's just me as the psychologist speaking, to get back into the role of things. I'm not sure if I missed anything, but I'm only because I have the floor and I'm so greedy. I would like to know if anybody is interested, just as an aside, in starting a Democratic club for water. And if you are, just send me a message, and then I'll give you all the information. It'll be a Democratic club, and it'll be about water. I'll get people ready to sit on water boards. We can learn about water, the cost of water, all aspects of water in San Diego County. We will not meet every month. It might be once a quarter. We'll make sure like there are speakers. Obviously, we're going to use Zoom because that's what we have. But in this case, we might like it because we might get a larger pool of people from the whole county. So if you know anybody that's interested, or you're interested, just send me a message and I'd be glad to get back to you. Anyway, does anybody have any questions, any comments? Did I miss anything in this impromptu, whatever? Yes, go. Who?
Yeah, Kelly's up first.
That's Kelly, okay.
Oh, hi there. I'd just like to say that one of the things we all should be brushing up on is how to talk to voters about how to vote by mail. We're assuming everybody knows how to do that.
Kelly, that's all good, but that's not part of this conversation. So hold on.
I thought we were at that part. Okay, then let me just say, related to what we were talking about then, I thought we had moved on. Apologize.
That's all right, don't worry.
There are Robert's Rules of Order cheat sheets on one page giving the basics.
Can you send it to us?
I'll try and find it.
I'll put it in the chat.
And the big thing is to tell people that Robert's Rules of Order are about keeping it fair. To talk about the principle behind the rules, not just nitpicking over the rules.
Okay. Thank you, Kelly. All right, Miriam. Then Kim. John is going to do announcements. I just had to get mine in because I have to leave in a second. All right, Miriam.
I would like to see if we can really make some trainings for Robert Rule Order of just for new members, or for everybody who want to participate. And also just I want to remind people that anybody can challenge the chair as well when they are taking over the chairing.
All right, thank you, Miriam. Kim.
Hi, thanks. This has been really valuable and very helpful. And by the way, you manage your ADHD very well if you really have that, because you've been a great facilitator. My expectation when I came to the meeting, which is fine, is that there would be more about like technical, how to be the host, click here, click there, put people into rooms, blah, blah, blah. It feels like this is ending. Is there that kind of support happening?
My part is ending. John is going to do the technical stuff. So he will be your tech person.
Oh, okay. So this isn't ending. This is, he's going to start talking about that. Oh,
right,
sorry.
John?
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll take the tech questions. Yeah, and also we'll point you to guides online, Kim, as well, because there's a lot of shared information that we're collating and put on our website.
Okay. We done.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, so I just wanted more information on the Democratic Club for Water, because I have somebody in mind.
Just post it in the chat and I'll get
you just posted it?
Okay, we're good.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
That's good. Well, Sue, that's everybody's hands that were raised. And so I want to give you a big thank you. And I know you're pushed for time because you have to jump off here for another another Zoom meeting. But yeah, no, thank you very much. And I think you brought out a lot of good points, and there's a lot of common issues, some of which on the tech side we can attempt to solve, some of which we may never solve. But as long as we all know how to work together and work through these issues, I think we can survive in this pandemic world and keep getting our message out there, especially as we get closer to November the 3rd. So Sue, thank you again.
All right, thank you. I have another Zoom meeting, so I appreciate your patience.
Okay, thanks, Sue. And everybody can see, you can see the chat and reactions. There's a reactions button in Zoom. And again, if you're running the latest version of Zoom, you can put fancier reactions in, like the one displaying on my screen at the moment. They've added more little emojis. And we can talk about potentially, to raise a point of order in a meeting, we can maybe come up with a protocol whereby we use a different emoji. If you look on the participants tab at the moment, you can see Georgine needed to take a coffee break. So she used the coffee break feature in Zoom, that kind of thing. So yeah, so for everybody following along on the Lucid meetings, we're on the running effective online meetings. We normally schedule this meeting to run to 12. There's a couple of things that came up in Sue's discussion, I think, on the tech side that we can talk on briefly here. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, which is showing where we're at in the agenda using the Lucid Meetings tool. And you can see down here at the bottom, we mentioned a couple of things we've already discussed about this idea about chat, whether it should be open or closed. And again, there are different thoughts on that. And one way some clubs have come up with solving the issue about wanting to keep chat open but not be a distraction is to open chat for a certain period of time of the meeting. And so, for example, during announcements or during candidates when they're introducing themselves, you'd open up the chat and candidates can post their contact information in there. Or during the announcement section, you open it up fully and people can post stuff in there. But maybe if you have a featured speaker or a guest speaker, maybe that's when you change the settings or the permissions on chat to limit it to messages just to go to the co-hosts. So people can still raise relevant questions of the co-host, but they're not distracting from the main presentation that's going on as part of the meeting. That's one suggestion on that. Another thing that came up, I think, is when people are speaking in a meeting for and against a position or a motion or a candidate, often the chair asks people who want to speak to raise their hand, but it's not clear if they're speaking for or against, and being able to balance that out and take it in turn. So again, taking a cue from what we saw from the CDP meeting the other weekend, they would first ask for speakers for and ask people to put up their hands for that. And then they would note down, just manually note down who those people were and select 2 or 3 of them. And again, use that rule that people who hadn't been heard previously in the meeting would get a chance to speak. Then they would clear their hands down and then they would ask for speakers against the motion. And again, they would make a note of those 3. And then they would call on those people in turn. And that's a good way of, one, keeping on time, because you're not having people come up on the speaker queue who had a previous question that they were actually addressing and not talking to the, being germane to the issue being discussed at that moment in time. On the voting, I think all of us who have enjoyed the spectacle of the Central Committee meetings can agree that online voting methods are not as good as they could be. And they're certainly not efficient, and they can slow meetings down a lot. The biggest issue, I think, generally on a meeting where you have a combination of voting members and non-voting members is the ability to distinguish between them and quickly do that to take a vote. And realistically, the only way I've seen it work quickly and efficiently is by using a different system to Zoom. So you have everybody join the Zoom meeting, everybody is an equal in the Zoom meeting with audio and video, but then you're using a different system to record the vote. And so, for example, that's why I'm showing the Lucid thing here, and the people who clicked through and signed up on the Lucid meeting here on the right-hand side, if you can imagine those were voting members of your club, then when you made a motion and you took a vote, it's just the voting members that would be voting. And non-voting members could still be present in the Lucid meeting, could still follow the agenda and see everything, but they just don't have the ability to vote in the meeting. And because Lucid Meeting also supports the fact the host at least can see who has voted, not how they voted necessarily, but if they have voted, they can then call verbally on people who haven't been able to record a vote, and or you could then use Zoom for doing that as well. Now, in terms of other technical issues, I don't know, I will go ahead and clear down. I see Kelly has a hand raised, but I'm going to clear you down, Kelly, just for the second, and then ask other specific technical questions that just to bring up here. I won't attempt to answer them, but if people want to bring them up, because we're reaching 20 to 12, but if there are things, you know, top of mind that people have, or put them in the chat, then offline, or at the end after 12, I can stay on this call and address those technical points. But if there's any technical questions people want to raise to the group, so Cess, I see you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I think it would be helpful for those of us who aren't super good with Zoom to have things for what hosts can do, like hosts for dummies kind of a thing. So for example, with chats, can you take things out of chats if they're off topic? How do you get chats online and offline? So, but generally there's a lot of things that I think the hosts don't know that they can do, and it would be helpful to have more information about that.
Yeah, a great question, Cess. And yeah, I'll follow up with that. There are a couple of guides that we recommend from the Council of Clubs. We have a very limited one of our own, but we also have ones from Indivisible and some of the other groups that have put together a lot of great information for that kind of beginner's guide to Zoom. And we will share those. And then Greg, you're next.
Yeah, John, just real quick. Lucid sounds great. There have been other programs also discussed at our Council of Clubs. If we could agree on one, I think part of the difficulty is if we switch from one format to another, it's hard for people to become familiar with them. At least at this point, we're more and more familiar with Zoom. If we've got another one that works better like that, that we can make as a recommendation, okay, this is it. This is the one when you're voting, you should be using. It's just helpful for those of us who then can learn that and be competent in it. The hard part is switching from one version to another and not knowing how to really effectively make use of that program. So if we agree on one, that'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a great point, Greg. And the comeback I would have to that is with 50 different clubs around the county and with everybody having different styles of how they want to do things, what I see the council doing is collecting best practices and sharing those back, but we're not recommending one particular way of doing things. We're not prescribing the one method. And the distinction, if you like, between Lucid Meetings that we're just showing on screen here today, this is a tool used for generally running meetings and not specifically to just voting. And we will send out more information on the other tool that we've set up here for all the clubs, which is specifically for voting. But the voting tool that we have at voting.sdcdclubs.org is purely a voting tool. It's not a tool used for meetings. And so they have, like all great technology, the great thing about technology is there are so many different choices. And it's hard to prescribe just one that will meet the needs of all clubs. But yeah, we will make it clearer going forward as to where you would use one or the other if there's confusion around that. But that's a very good point. And then Kelly, you're next.
Yes, thank you. Two things. One is, John, I know you're super tech, but you might want to check out some of the wonderful software that's free and available for teaching kids remotely, because anyone can get into it. It's multiple choices on responses, etc. Just consider that as a body of knowledge about online communication that's very available and free. Secondly, I'd like to ask, it seems to me that we could better the situation where some of us would really like to hug you or hug Sue or, you know, have more interpersonal conversation if it were possible before a meeting to go into like multiple breakout rooms where we could have a little conversation, a little chit chat, not necessarily political, more human interest before the meeting. And I think it would be better if it wasn't everyone together, but people could kind of choose breakout room 1 or 2 or something like that. Any ideas on that?
Yeah, now that last point is a great one. I've seen some clubs have done that both in the social hour before the meeting and or in a hanging around after the meeting, which typically with Democrats in physical meetings would always happen. And yeah, it's a great idea. People have set up different breakout rooms, maybe on an issue-based breakout room or candidate-based breakout rooms. And then the co-host can then ask people which room they would like to go into. People go into that room, they meet like-minded people on that subject. And then if they find it's not what they were expecting, they can pop back to the main meeting and ask to be put into a different breakout room. A bit like, moving around at a larger group meeting between different pockets of individuals. So that's a great idea. And you're right, we can write up more technically on how that's possible to achieve. And then Linda, next.
Is it true that a co-host can actually put people in breakout rooms? We found you only could do that if you were the host.
No, you're absolutely right, Linda. Yeah, if I said that, I misspoke. Yeah, it's only the host that can move people to breakout rooms.
And so to have more than one host, is that possible?
No, you can only have one host in a meeting. You can have multiple co-hosts, but you can assign the host to a different person than the person who owns the Zoom account.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Okay, so I'll leave that as the questions then for today, and we will follow up with write-ups on these. And then just moving along here then on the agenda, if I move here to the next item, which I do here by clicking this button, the next item, just very briefly, is on endorsements and resolutions. And so just to remind everybody that filing has closed as of, I think, last Friday, and then there's an extension for different seats whereby the incumbent chose not to run. So that period of time ran out on Wednesday of last week. And so now throughout the county, all the candidates are known. Every club through the party has access to the Vote Builder tool. So if in your area you see candidates listed on the registrar's list and you're not sure if they're registered Democrats or not, you can look up their details in Vote Builder. If you don't have access to Vote Builder or you can't remember your login for the club, just contact staff. Just send an email to clubs@sddemocrats.org. And that email will go to myself and Maral and Andrea. And then either Maral or Andrea will configure a login for your club, which gives you an ability, what they call quick lookup in Vote Builder, whereby you can put in somebody's name or street address or telephone number or whatever details you pull from the registrar's list. And then it will search them up and it will show you their voter registration. Just a reminder that clubs can only endorse registered Democrats. And if you have an MPP candidate that you like, and there's no Democrat running in that race, you can choose to rate them qualified. Or if you don't like them, you can rate them unacceptable, but you can't endorse a non-Democrat. And then obviously just the normal reminder about if you are running endorsements between now and the election cycle, the normal rules apply that the party stipulates for 14 days notice to all your members. And to an invitation sent out to all the declared candidates. Some clubs have thought that it's okay if I message somebody, say on a social media tool, and I ask them if they want to be considered. And then when I don't hear back from them, I take it that I don't have to send them information. That's not really how it works. The rule from the party is that you have to send the information to all the declared candidates. So even if they don't get back to you on social media, go ahead and send them the information anyway. If they choose not to partake in your endorsement, event, that's up to them, but you should definitely go ahead and send that information. And also in the past, we've also talked about the fact, well, if you're not sure on who all the candidates are, contact the party office. Something that with all the number of races that are happening around a very large county, often it's clubs that know more about the local candidates that are running than the party office does. And so we would encourage everybody to flip it around the other way. And if you found a good candidates running in your locale of the county, help spread the word by sharing that information back to the party so they can include that on the list of candidates that are up on the website, and also share their contact information, share their phone numbers or email addresses so that other clubs could reach out and potentially endorse them or support them, or at least get the word out that there is a good Democratic candidate running in that race, because obviously that's half the battle. Also a reminder, there's no requirement for clubs to endorse the same candidate that the party has endorsed. Some clubs think that that's a rule, and I'm told that in some counties in California it is a rule, but in San Diego County it is not a rule. And so I can just remind people maybe of, races for San Diego City Council between Myrtle Cole and Monica Montgomery. Just because the party has endorsed one candidate, there is no requirement for a club to endorse the same candidate. Clubs are independent and can endorse whoever they like, as long as they're a registered Democrat. Also, another reminder, club associate members, to cast a vote at the area meeting, there's a couple of requirements. One I think we've all become familiar with because it's a little laborious and harder than it should be, is when there's a contested race with more than one candidate for one seat, or more candidates than there are seats available, then you have to go through a formal endorsement process and you have to complete a form on the party's website at sddemocrats.org/club endorsement. Without that, your member can't vote in that race. However, in a non-contested race, where there is only one Dem or there are fewer Dems than there are seats available, that is not a requirement. Every associate member is free to vote for that member without having gone through the process of filling in that form. And then lastly, on resolutions, there's been a lot of interest recently around resolutions and how they should be conducted, at clubs. And a reminder that clubs are not restricted to just looking at local issues. Clubs can look at national or international issues, because clubs have a role in electing their congressional, senatorial representatives at the national level. And so clubs can be encouraged to look at resolutions at all levels of politics. And then clubs can just, pass that resolution themselves within their own club, and they may choose to pass that resolution on to the county party if they think that's appropriate. And just a reminder, how you do that is you basically send your resolution following the guidelines for resolutions, which are on the party's website at sddemocrats.org/member. And you send it to the chair pro tem, which is Becca Taylor. So she's the Metro West VC at sddemocrats.org. And the next resolutions meeting is actually this Tuesday. So if you have something that you're considering, or you've passed at your club and you think the party should look at it as well, please send it along to Becca by Monday. So that's great. So that's the section I had there. I don't know if there are any questions on that. And if not, we'll move then into the next section, which is announcements. And then, yep, number of people putting their hands up, which is great. And what I'll do here then, like we did at the beginning, is I'll try and give everybody a minute here to speak. And we'll start in the order in which people have their hands raised, and then I'll change the color of the background behind me. So let me see here, I'll just get my timer set to go. And so Ehab, you're up first, if you want to go ahead.
Thank you, John. I just wanted to say a few words in support of a congressional bill known as Promoting Human Rights for Palestinian Children Living Under Israeli Military Occupation. The bill is endorsed by the California Democratic Party as well as the Children's Caucus of the CDP. The bill is endorsed by 3 Democratic clubs in San Diego, as well as several congressional representatives, including Maxine Waters and Barbara Lee. Promoting human rights would prohibit use of foreign assistance funds, including the $3.8 billion given annually to the Israeli government for military detention, interrogation, abuse, or ill treatment of children in violation of international humanitarian law. I encourage every club to endorse Promoting Human Rights. Promoting human rights and racial equality will help our local party in the November election and beyond, as we seek to establish the Democratic Party as the party of liberty and justice for all. If you want to grow your club in numbers and in democratic principles, please reach out to me in the chat, or I will put my email in the chat. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Good. Thanks, Ehab. And then up next, we have Richard Ram. And just before you begin, Richard, if my automatic pop-up on my calendar is correct, I should wish you a happy birthday. Are you there, Richard? So Richard, I can't hear you. I don't know if anybody else on the call can hear Richard. Yeah, you were off mute for a moment. Let's see, I'll ask to unmute you again.
How's that?
There you go. That's much better. And is it
Thank you.
true it is your birthday?
That is a truism. That can be borne out by facts.
Excellent. And I should wish Phil Courier a happy birthday as well. But we can sing to you at the end here. But if you want to go ahead and you have a minute, you have a minute.
Okay. So I will speak on behalf of San Diego County Democrats for Environmental Action. This past Wednesday, we hosted our third environmental report. We heard from speakers with the Montgomery-Gibbs Environmental Coalition, and this was to educate our members and attendees about the health impacts of lead pollution being dispersed over San Diego neighborhoods from planes and from flight schools coming out of our municipal airports like Montgomery Field, which is just a few blocks from where I live. And then I wanted to mention we have our upcoming club meeting on Zoom this Wednesday, August 19th. That's going to be at 6:30. We're going to be hearing about the proposed Fanita Ranch development in Santee, with a focus on how Fanita Ranch is just more unaffordable sprawl housing that reduces our open space and wildlife habitat and places more residences in the path of a wildfire threat. So I'm going to put up the link for our meeting. If anybody would like to get our newsletters, you can leave your email address here in the chat. And I'll add you to our list. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Richard. And in addition, to that talk as well, we should point people towards Sam Hurst. I know has a great video on her Sam Hurst for Santee City Council page with an interview with Rick Halsey that discusses Fanita Ranch as well, and the fire risk and chaparral. So Kelly, you're up next.
Yes, I just like to draw people's attention to the fact that when you're contacting voters, they do not necessarily know how to vote by mail. There's going to be a cheat sheet for volunteers of things that you need to tell your voter about voting by mail, and also that they can vote in person over a 4-day period, and how to check whether they're registered, etc. But do not assume that all your contacts with voters already know how to vote by mail. About 30% of people are afraid of it, and there's a lot of data from the Voter Services Committee of the CDP that suggests that we really need to educate people. So develop a little one-phrase statement to try and suss out where your voter is as far as voting by mail.
Great, thanks, Kelly. And Danny, you're up next.
Is that me?
Yeah, that's you, Danny. Yeah, go ahead.
All righty, thank you so much. Good evening, Democrats. I wanted to take the time right now to introduce myself as the new interim president of the Downtown Democratic Club. We are in the process of holding some candidate forums, and you should hear more about us on our website. I'm sorry, on our social media page. But yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself, and sorry I joined a little late. There's definitely a lot going on right now in this crazy time. So thank you so much for letting me introduce myself today, and I look forward to working with everyone.
That's great. Thanks, Danny. And then next we have Raid.
Hello, yes.
Yep, yeah, go ahead, Raid.
I'm here on behalf of JVP, which is Jewish Voices for Peace, in order to promote the bill entitled Promoting Human Rights for Palestinian Children Living Under Israeli Military Occupation Act. So one of the—
Sorry, Raid, I'm going to interrupt you just for a second. Yeah, can you speak up a little bit? You're very quiet in the distance.
Okay. How's
Yeah, that's
this?
great. Yeah,
This look
that's
good?
much
Okay,
better.
cool,
Yeah.
cool. All right, so I just wanted to bring up an important piece of this bill, and that is it authorizes $19 million annually to fund NGO human rights monitoring of Israel's military detention of Palestinian children and physical, psychological, and emotional health treatment and support for Palestinian child victims of Israeli military detention. Annually, up to 700 Palestinian youth are detained every single year, and of course, subjected to psychological torment. And this causes a major issue for the children and their families. Now, allotting $19 million is of course not enough, but it is going to make up for the fact that the Trump administration has withdrawn their support for the HC, what's it called? The UNRWA. So this is a necessary bill for the United States to implement because they have already given up on the aspect of supporting the rights of refugees, which is already so necessary. So that is just one thing I wanted to bring up to all of you. And I thank you very much for letting me provide that message.
Great, thank you. And then next up we have Cody.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, you sound good.
Great. Cody Vieira here. I'm the president of the University City Democratic Club and the vice president of the San Diego County Young Dems. I just wanted to announce that we've moved a couple of our meetings. I did send this already to the calendar at sddemocrats.org, but last I checked, it hadn't been updated yet. So I just wanted to let everyone know. We normally meet the fourth Tuesday of the month, but because Central Committee has moved their meeting to that date, we've moved ours to Monday, August 31st at 7 p.m. And we've also added an additional September date to finish up our endorsements on September 13th at 11 a.m. So please don't schedule any other meetings on those days. And we're also still meeting on a regular September 22nd date as well. Thank you.
That's great. No, thanks, Cody. And I will try and make sure that the calendar is updated immediately after this meeting, if I can.
Great. It might have been, I think I checked yesterday and it wasn't though. So just, yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'll check on that. I know they're busy, I think, with the North Area meeting. They may have not quite done it, but yeah, that's great. So then, yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. Yeah, no, Wadad, you're next. Wadad, yeah, you want to go ahead?
Got it. My name is Widad Shlota. I'm an ACLU board member and the vice president of the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee. I would like to join my voice with Ihab and Raed in asking for your support for the congressional bill known as Promoting Human Rights for Palestinian Children Living Under Israeli Military Occupation. The bill is endorsed by California Democratic Party, as well as the Children's Caucus of the CDP. The bill is also endorsed by 3 Democratic clubs in San Diego, as well as several congressional representatives, including Maxine Waters and Barbara Lee. Promoting human rights for Palestinian children living under Israeli military occupation would prohibit using of foreign assistance funds, including the $3.8 billion given annually to the Israeli government for military detention, interrogation, abuse, and inhumane ill treatment of children, which are in violation of international humanitarian law. The bill also prohibits such taxpayer funds from being used to support certain practices
Thanks for that.
against
That's
children.
fine.
I trust that you
Thank
will
you.
vote your conscience. Thank you
great.
very much.
Thanks for that. Okay, that's great. And then next up we have Tariq.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I would actually also like to voice my support in regards to this congressional bill promoting human rights for Palestinian children living under Israeli occupation. I believe as Democrats, it's important for us to protect all human lives, specifically children, from the atrocities of war and governments. I believe this is one of our one of the principles that we should be supporting as a club and as a party. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Craig. And then Mustafa, you're up next.
Thank you, John. So I also wanted to talk about supporting the same bill, HR 2407, but I want to talk about it from a humanitarian side. This is not a religious issue. It's not an anti-Semitic issue. It is an issue of human rights for children and minors. We see what's happening at our border, and we are outraged at what's happening at our border, but this is also happening 8,000 miles away in the occupied territories. Now, standing up for human rights for children and minors is the right thing to do. And as Democrats, we believe in human rights for all people, and not standing up for this issue because you think it's anti-Semitic, if you do, is not the right thing to do. It's something that we need to do as Democrats, and we need to do as human beings. Thank you.
Bravo.
Great, thanks, Mustafa. And then next up we have Seth. Seth, if you want to unmute.
This is a update on Go Team policy. Previously, we were told we were not going to be able to do door hangers this year, which is what the Go Team normally does. That policy has been changed a bit to permit any of the neighborhood leaders who want to give door hangers to do it, but we will not be talking to people door to door. We will be calling people instead. So there is a possibility of door hangers this year.
Okay, that's great, Seth, thank you. And then next up we have Derek.
Thank you, John. I would like to invite all members. I'd like to invite all members who live in San Diego to join and help the new coalition to get a community-owned public power organization formed in San Diego to replace San Diego Gas and Electric, like the one in Sacramento, the Sacramento Municipal Utility District. San Diego Gas and Electric's contract to provide power to San Diego is coming to a close in January, and we want to replace it with a new public power company. If anybody's interested, please contact me, Derek Cassidy, D Cassidy, D like Derek, D Cassidy, Cassady at outlook.com. Thank you.
That's great, thanks, Derek. And if maybe you want to go ahead and put your email in the chat there as well.
Okay, thank you.
That'd be great. And then Zahra, you're up next.
Hi, my name is Zahra and I'm a member of the SJP at UCSD. I would like to say a few words in support of a congressional bill known as Promoting Human Rights for Palestinian Children Living Under Israeli Military Occupation.
Can't hear you.
Hello?
Yes, sorry, Zahra, yeah. If you're able to get closer to the microphone, maybe your voice is a little faint in the background.
Can you hear me better now?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, if you want to, I'm going to restart the timer. If you want to start from the top of the minute.
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. My name is Zahra, and I'm a member of the SJP at UCSD. I would like to say a few words in support of a congressional bill known as Promoting Human Rights for Palestinian Children Living Under Israeli Military Occupation. The bill is endorsed by the California Democratic Party as well as the Children's Caucus of the CDP. The bill is also endorsed by 3 Democratic clubs in San Diego, as well as several congressional representatives, including Maxine Walters and Barbara Lee. Promoting human rights would prohibit use of foreign assistance funds, including the $3.8 billion given annually to the Israeli government for military detention, interrogation, abuse, or ill treatment of children in violation of international humanitarian law. The bill also prohibits such taxpayer funds from being used to support certain practices against children, including torture, sensory deprivation, solitary confinement, and arbitrary detention outside of due process of law. I encourage every club to endorse promoting human rights. Promoting human rights and racial equality will help our local party in the November election and beyond as we seek to establish the Democratic Party as the party of liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
That's great, thanks, Sarah. So I think that's everybody who had their hand raised. And so with that, I think we will go ahead and adjourn the meeting and thank everybody for coming. And yeah, do share any further thoughts you have on the whole Zoom process.
John, are you gonna stay on
yes,
for a while?
Absolutely. I was going to say, I'm going to stay on. So if you have more techie questions, Sue answered all the people questions, and I can ask or attempt to help answer some of the techie questions. So yeah, so with that, thank you everybody for coming. Oh yeah, and if you need a rush off, BayPAC has a great meeting that's starting now at 12. And then there's also a great social justice meeting at 1 o'clock, I think that's happening today. And then obviously the North Area Caucus meeting is happening at 2. Okay, if you need to get more of a Zoom fix today. Okay, thanks everyone.